With all the variations in the max effort method, it can be very confusing. So today, I'm going to show you the top 5 movements that I use here at Ludus Magnus and with myself in my training. So we'll get to it and I'll show you 5 badass movements. So the first exercise I'm going to show you is a fat bar with 3 chain. Now, why fat bar? The fat bar changes the thickness in your hand, which is going to change how your hand functions. So when you're bench pressing with a fat bar, it's a lot harder in certain ways than a straight bar, but it has massive transfer. It teaches you to keep your hands very, very tight. Now, why chain is because the chain is going to get lighter at the bottom and heavier at the top, working with the person's strength curve. So it's 120 pounds extra at the top than it is in the bottom. What that's going to do is build an extremely strong mid and top range on the bench press. Why is that important? Well, if you look at most of people's bench pressing, when they fail, they're going to fail about 2 to 4 inches off the chest or very close to lockout. This exercise over many, many months, implemented occasionally, is going to make sure that that does not happen. The other thing that you can see the chains actually do is oscillate. So the chains start to have a property that don't act like real weights, meaning they like to sway and move. That swaying and moving is going to make the stabilizers have to work much, much harder, therefore making your normal bench with the straight bar and straight weight much more stable, therefore much more powerful. The next exercise is the fat pad or wide pad bench press on a normal bench press with a double orange band. Now this is roughly 160 to 200 pounds of band tension based on your arm length. But the wide pad on the bench actually makes you have to set up completely different. It's almost a hybrid between a bench press and a floor press, which we're going to show in a minute. The wider bench though tends to make your shoulder blades have to work a little bit different in the bench press. So notice how wide this pad is. Now the Wenning strength bench press is one of the only bench presses on the market that with 2 T-handle changes, we can make this a competition with bench in about 30 to 45 seconds. Other benches, you'd have to completely unbolt and convert over to that. So that's why I like our competition bench. It has so much versatility. But enough of that. We're going to go to the wide bench, double orange bench press with a normal bar. So you're going to see he's going to take this out, and this thing is going to act like a psycho because it's so much band tension. You're going to see it have to move a little bit. It's going to have to come down. It's going to cause him to have to shudder a little bit and move. This builds a lot of stabilization, but a extremely strong mid and top range. Now you'll notice that I'm talking a lot about mid and top range training. There are 2 big advantages to mid and top range training. 1, you get used to handling extremely heavy loads, and 2, you're most likely to get hurt in the bench press at the very bottom when the weight is touching your chest. That's when the muscles are expanded and stretched the farthest. So if it's set up in this fashion, you're going to be able to train harder without tearing up your shoulder. The next exercise that we like to use is a lightened method incline bench. Now as you can see, we're using a football bar with angle handles. This is going to cause a little bit of a shoulder difference from a straight bar, which is going to allow us to press heavy both week in and week out. Also, with the bands being lightened, it's going to give us almost nearly 135 pounds at the top and give him about 55 to 60 pounds in the bottom. What's that going to do? Well, again, it's going to change the mid and top range very, very strong. The other thing that I like about using the lightened method is that the body doesn't really notice that the weight's lighter in the bottom. I mean, yes, you're going to be able to use more weight, but the motor units that you're going to turn on are going to be very equal to the weight of whatever it is at the top, meaning you're going to get super strong without the damage at the very lowest position, which could cause the most injury. And 5, good. The nice thing about using this style of bar is you can see we can put our hands in 3 different positions, which gives us 3 separate weeks. Now imagine if we did this flat, incline, decline, chains, lightened method, or free weight. We have about 20 different variations with just one bar. But that's what I find is the biggest problem with using the max effort method is people run out of ideas. And the funnest part about me training is coming up with new ideas and new ways to test myself that still transfer over to a straight bar, straight weight bench press. The next exercise we like to use is the pin press. Now this exercise we don't put in a ton, but I really like it because it can fix the exact sticking point in which you're sticking on the bench press. So what he's going to do is lift it from a dead pin, and then he's going to set it back down controlled and let it completely rest, and then lift it again. Lift it down controlled. Good. What you don't want to do is slam it back down. Yep. And you want to rest it on the pin every time. Now a good rep range for this is somewhere in the 5s. The reason is because it's already a limited range of motion, and if you're not using at least 3 to 5 reps on this exercise, you're not going to get enough work to see a lot of cellular change. So I like to use this exercise for more of a 5 RM. One of the next big exercises that we rotate in various forms is the floor press. Now the floor press exercise is also a limited range of motion, but I would almost guarantee that any of you guys watching, that if you were to floor press, take your elbows down to the floor, you're going to find that that's going to be very close to your sticking point in the bench. So he's going to take it out, he's going to take it down until his elbows touch the floor. He's going to press. So you see it's about 2 inches or so off of his chest. That is probably where he starts to stick, or at least the bar starts to vastly slow down on the way up. The floor press is a great exercise, but for another hidden reason. One of the hidden reasons is when you rest your elbows on the ground, it tends to want to shut off the arm, making the arm have to start from a designated stopping point. It's hard to store the stretch reflex in the arm when it's smashed into the ground. Now that also creates a new danger. The danger is the fact that you are resting the weight on your elbow, meaning that this cannot be slammed down into the ground. It must be placed on the ground in a very cool and chill fashion. That is going to allow the elbow to not get injured, but also make it a very, very strong exercise to make your bench pressing elite. So what you saw today were 5 exercises that we use for max effort work pretty regularly. Now don't get it twisted. We got about 25 to different 30 variations of these exercises that we rotate. We showed you the angles, but we showed you certain bars. Those exercises are going to change in bar types, right? And resistance types. So what we saw today was bands from the bottom, bands from the top, and chains and straight weight. Now those can be mixed and matched and varied in all different sorts of ways. And to see how to plug these into your program, please tune into our Patreon channel and look at our other videos on YouTube.